2 Samuel 7. Adonai's promise to David. Now it came about when the king lived in his palace, and Adonai had granted him rest from all his enemies around him, that the king said to the prophet Nathan, "See now, I am living in a house of cedar, yet the ark of God remains within curtains. Go do all that is in your heart," Nathan said to the king, "for Adonai is with you." But it came to pass that the same night the word of Adonai came to Nathan, saying, "Go tell my servant David, thus says Adonai, are you to build me a house for me to dwell in? Since the day that I brought up the children of Israel from Egypt to this day I have not dwelt in a house, but have been moving about in a tent, even in a tabernacle. In all my journeying among the children of Israel, did I ever speak a word to any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded my shepherd to my people, to Israel, saying, Why have you not built me a house of cedar? So now thus you shall say to my servant David, thus says Adonai Zavat, I took you up from the pasture, from following the sheep, to be a ruler over my people, over Israel. I have been with you wherever you went, and have cut off all your enemies from before you, and I will make your name as great as the greatest on earth. I will also set up a place for my people Israel, and will plant them so that they may dwell in their own place, and not be disturbed again, nor will all the children of the wickedness afflict them any more as in the past, since the day that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel. So I will give you the rest from all your enemies. Moreover, Adonai declares to you that Adonai will make a house for you. When your days are done and you sleep with your fathers, I will raise up your seed, who will come forth from you after you, and I will establish his kingdom. He will build a house for my name, and I will establish his royal throne forever. I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. If he commits iniquity, I will correct him with the rod of men and with the strokes of sons of men. Yet my loving kindness will not be withdrawn from him, as I withdrew it from Saul, whom I removed from before you. So your house and your kingship will be secure forever before you. Your throne will be established forever. Just so Nathan spoke all these words, and all to this vision to David. And King David went in and sat before Adonai and said, Who am I, my lord Adonai, and what is my family, yet that you have brought with me this far? Yet this wall was a small thing in your eyes, my lord Adonai, for you have spoken also of your servant's house for this distant future. This is a revelation for humanity, my lord Adonai. What more can David add in speaking to you? For you already know your servant, my lord Adonai. For the sake of your word and according to your own heart, you have done everything great, revealing this to your servant. Therefore you are great, my lord Adonai. For there is none like you, and there is no other God besides you, as we all have heard with our ears. What one nation on earth is like your people, like Israel, whom God went to redeem for himself as a people, to make for himself a name, to do for you a great thing and awesome deeds for your land, before your people whom you redeemed for yourself from Egypt, driving out nations and their gods. So you established for yourself your people, Israel is your very own people forever, and you, Adonai, have become their God. So now, my lord Adonai, confirm the word that you have spoken concerning your servant and his house forever, and do to you as I promised. Let your name be magnified forever by saying, Adonai Zavat is God over Israel. May the house of your servant Adonai be established before you. For you, Adonai Zavat, God of Israel, have made a revelation to your servant, saying, I will build you a house. Therefore your servant has found his heart to pray this prayer to you. So now, my lord Adonai, you alone are God, and your words are truth, and you have promised your servant this good thing. So now let it please you to bless this house of your servant, to continue forever before you. For you, my lord Adonai, have spoken, and with your blessing your servant house will be blessed forever. Your servant's house. 2 Samuel chapter 8. David's kingdom expands. Now, afterward, David attacked the Philistines and subdued them, and took Metheg-ammah from the hand of the Philistines. He also defeated Moab. He made them lie down on the ground and measured them with a cord. Every 2 measures of them were put to death, and the 3rd measure was kept alive. So the Moabites became vassals to David, bringing tribute. David also defeated King Hadadezer, son of Rehob of Zobah, as he went to restore his dominion along the river. David captured from him 1,700 horsemen and 20,000 foot soldiers, and David hamstrung all the chariot horses, while reserving 100 of them for chariots. When the Edomians of Damascus came to the aid of King Hadadezer of Zobah, David struck down 22,000 Idumean men. Then David stationed garrisons in Adam of Damascus, and the Idumeans became vassals to David, bringing tribute. So Adonai gave victory to David wherever he went. And David also took the golden shields of Hadadezer's officers and brought them to Jerusalem, from Betha to Berothai, towns of Hadadezer. King David took vast amounts of bronze. Now when King Toi of Hamath heard that David had defeated the entire army of Hadadezer, Toi sent his son Joram to King David to greet him and congratulate him on his victory in battle over Hadadezer. For Hadadezer had been at war with Toi. Joram brought with him articles of silver, gold, and bronze. These two King David consecrated to Adonai, along with silver and gold that he had consecrated from all the nations that he had subdued, from Aram, Moab, to the Ammonites, to Philistines, Amalek, and from the spoil of Hadadezer, son of Rehob, king of Zobah. Then David made a name for himself when he returned from striking 18,000 down from Edom in the Valley of Salt. When he stationed garrisons in Edom, throughout all Edom he stationed garrisons, so that all the Edomites became vassals to David. So Adonai gave victory to David whenever he went. David reigned over all Israel, and David executed justice and righteousness for all his people. Joab, son of Zeruiah, was commander over the army. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was recorder. Zadok, son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, son of Abiathar, were Kohanim. Sarai was scribe. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were chief ministers. 2 Samuel chapter 9, covenant loyalty to Mephibosheth, yeah. Then David inquired, is there anyone still left from the house of Saul, so that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? Now there was a servant from Saul's house whose name was Ziba. So they summoned him to David. The king asked him, are you Ziba? Your servant, he said. The king asked him, is there still anyone from the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God? There is still a son of Jonathan, Ziba said to the king, with crippled legs. Where is he? The king said to him. Ziba said to the king, he's there in the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lodabar. So King David sent word and brought him from the house of Machir, son of Amiel, from Lodabar. Then Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, son of Saul, came to David, fell on his face, and prostrated himself. Mephibosheth, David said, behold, your servant, he answered. Don't be afraid, David said to him, for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land of your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat bread at my table. Then he bowed down and said, what does your servant that you should turn to look at such a dead dog like me? Then the king summoned Ziba, Saul's servant, and said to him, all that belonged to Saul and to all his household I have given to your master's son. So you and your sons and your servants will till the land for him, and you will bring in the yield that your master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master's son, will always eat bread at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then Ziba said to the king, according to all that my lord the king commands his servant, so will your servant do. Thus Mephibosheth used to eat at the table, just like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son, whose name was Micah. All the members of Ziba's household were servants to Mephibosheth, but Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he ate at the king's table regularly, though he was crippled in both legs.